And joining us now is Hugh Hewitt, the author of The Fourth Way, the Conservative Playbook for a Lasting GOP Majority. He's here to discuss that book as well as the Republican strategy now that they control both the White House and Congress. Hugh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Kimberly, good to be back. I was one of your young associates asked me, have you ever been on the show before? I said, I was here before you were born. I did the transition show in 1989 for the Washington Journal. I had brown hair, not white hair, and it's an institution I'm always honored to be on it.
Well, we're happy to have you here. So let's start by talking about The Fourth Way, the title of your book. What does that mean?
It's the continuation of a series of ways. The first way was FDR's, to build the government big. The second way was Reagan's, to cut it back at home and to be aggressive abroad. The third was Tony Blair's, picked up by Bill Clinton, to make liberalism moderate. And the fourth way is, and I had it delivered to every Republican member of the Congress at their Philadelphia retreat, it's all through the White House, is how to go big, go far, go fast, and marry what President Trump wants, which is infrastructure spending, a large Navy, a wall, regulatory reform, with what Paul Ryan and the Republicans want, which is tax reform and entitlement reform. So the fourth way is the marriage of Ryan Republicanism with President Trump's agenda.
So who should read this book? Is it just for the Republicans, or do you have another audience as well?
I have another audience as well. I really want conservatives to know what is being read by their leaders and what we should be pushing for and how to go big, go far, go fast. It's also for liberals, because they don't believe that the first chapter of the book, which is about the 18 years I've spent on the Orange County Children and Families Commission, could possibly exist. A lot of conservatives are genuinely compassionate conservatives. They want to help the poor rise. They want to make sure people have health care. And I believe we can do it in a better, more efficient, more effective way than, for example, the collapse of Obamacare has revealed. And so the transition is going to be awkward. It's going to be difficult. There are better ways to do almost everything that President Obama wanted to do, and the fourth way is about how to do that.
And as we discuss the new book, The Fourth Way, with Hugh Hewitt, Democrats can call in 202-748-8000. Republicans 202-748-8001, and Independents 202-748-8002. Now, you laid out these strategies, everything from the wall to fiscal conservatism. Let's start with the idea of the wall, which is estimated will cost upwards of $15 billion. Yet you have folks like House Speaker Paul Ryan, who is known to be very fiscally conservative, saying that he's behind this. Is this a shift, or do these two principles somehow gel?
It is expensive, but it is necessary. President Trump made it the centerpiece of his campaign. I've been arguing for a double-sided, long, strong, tall wall across about half of the Mexican-U.S. border. 2,000-mile border. About half of it is unpassable anyway because of mountains and lakes, but half of it needs the barrier that across the Mexican-American border many, many times going into Tijuana from Southern California. It works. It's effective. It's the visible expression of an invisible commitment to sovereignty. And I don't think it ought to be a spark point between Mexico and the U.S. the way that it is, since Mexico has a wall on its southern border. There's a wall between the West Bank and parts of Israel. There's a wall that Saudi Arabia is building. There's a wall in Yemen. There's walls in Hungary. There's a wall around the White House. They work for a reason, and you care about the people on the inside, not dislike the people on the outside. So it is expensive, but I also think it's an opportunity. And I discussed this in The Fourth Way, Kimberly. I would like to see President Trump oversee an immigration overhaul. His Nixon to China moment, I detail it. And by the way, I'm signaling it with Sean Spicer's comments about the DACA children don't have to worry, or young adults now. I don't think you're going to see sweeping deportations, except of crime committers and gang members and people who are not desirable because of the violence they bring to society. I think you'll see a Trump regularization, and boy, will that realign American politics when he does that.
All right. In your book, you lay out 5 goals that you say Republicans should have. Let's go through them. One is increase spending on specific infrastructure, increasing spending on immigration overhaul, resupply the military, select the right justices and judges, and allow the free market to flourish. We sort of hit on a couple of those issues already with the immigration overhaul and infrastructure with regard to the wall. What about the military? What would you like to see happen there? President Trump going to the Pentagon today.
Yes, he is going to meet with General Mattis, now Secretary Mattis. The most important goal that he articulated was a definitive number for the Navy, a 350-ship Navy. So I asked my friend Captain Jerry Hendricks at the Center for New American Security, as well as a man I'll call Officer X, as well as Robert O'Brien, a longtime friend and law partner of mine, to outline for me how do you get from where we are, 272 to 282 ships, depending on how you count, to 350. And those plans are very specific, and they're laid out in the fourth way, because shipbuilding is the backbone of free trade, is the backbone of security of the seas. We are a maritime nation and have been from our founding. So getting to that 350 is massive. Repairing the nuclear deterrent is also a major deal. That's mentioned in the New York Times story this morning about what he'll be talking about with General Mattis. Got to get our fighter aircraft up to about 1,400. The Marine Corps has to be expanded. General Mel Spees is a friend of mine, two-star retired Marine. And I asked him, okay, Mel, tell me what the Marine Corps needs. And he laid it out, and I put it in. So it's not just someone who's read too many Tom Clancy novels. I found the experts on shipbuilding and the Marines and the Air Force, and just to give me the outline. And I encourage in the fourth way President Trump to convene the Vice President and leaders of the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, grab everyone in a room and say, the caps are off, sequestration is over. This is what we're going to build. This is when we're going to build it. And by the way, these are the states in which we're going to distribute the new shipbuilding. You can't build the Columbia-class replacement for the Ohio-class boomer submarine anywhere but where they're currently being built. But you can build a lot of the new things in different places and re-energize America's industrial base in the process.
Now, both this military policy as well as the $15 billion wall are going to cost a lot of money. How do you propose that you pay for it?
And even more, I propose $85 billion in infrastructure spending at the local level, which is 1/10 of what President Obama got. And I think President Trump can do 100 times as much. How do you pay for it? Entitlement reform. Now, President Trump doesn't want to do entitlement reform. So the big deal, and I'll be talking about this with John Dickerson this morning and again on Sunday, the big deal is you give President Trump his infrastructure, his wall, his Navy, his regulatory overhaul, and in return, the deal maker gives Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell entitlement reform. And it's not that hard, and it shouldn't be scary. You raise the retirement age gradually to 70. You unchain the cost of living adjustment from inflation. You means test Social Security. You do block grant Medicaid, and you make changes to Medicare as outlined by Paul Ryan. It will pay for itself as well with a corporate tax rate cut from 20 to 15% or lower. And Paul Ryan has suggested on my show, Speaker Ryan said, and we'll have a 6-month window where the repatriation rate will be as low as 7%. There are $2 trillion in American profits stranded abroad, Kimberly. I outlined this with all the specifics in the fourth way. If it comes home, we're going to bank a lot of money that's stranded abroad.
All right, we're joined by Hugh Hewitt, author of The Fourth Way, a conservative playbook for a lasting GOP majority, also radio talk show host with the Salem Radio Network and a law professor at Chapman University School of Law, as well as a commentator on MSNBC and CNN. Now, during the campaign, at one point, you weren't always supportive of now President Trump. At one point, you suggested that he drop out after the Access Hollywood tape was released. What changed? What's made you a supporter of the president now?
Well, I was always with him. I do this in the book to make sure people understand. During the debate season, I did 4 of the presidential debates, so I was Switzerland. I was neutral. And I had 170 interviews with Republicans, and I didn't endorse anyone, and said I would support the nominee. When President Trump, then candidate Trump, became the nominee, I supported him. I was very critical of him during the Judge Curiel episode and believed it was like flying a plane into the mountain, and that approach itself, not the president, but that approach was stage 4 cancer and needed to be treated. He stopped. So I got back on the Trump train, campaigned for him across the country with Sheriff David Clark, John Voight, some of my colleagues, Mike Gallagher, Dennis Prager from the Salem Radio Network, worked around the clock till Access Hollywood came out. And that stunned me. I'm a pretty conservative, Catholic, evangelical Presbyterian. It's complicated. But it stunned me, and I asked him to step aside. When he didn't, I waited to see if there was more. There wasn't. And on Election Day, I voted for him very proudly. I'm very happy he won, primarily because of the courts and defense and regulatory overhaul. And I'm very pleased with the first week, though I have said many Americans go to concerts. I like to go to concerts. Most recently, I went to see Jackson Browne. This was originally like a concert with a couple of bad songs, and now it's like a concert with 3 bands playing at the same time. I mean, it's so noisy that I don't know quite what to think. I'm focusing on what he's doing, and he's doing good things, in my view, and I can't wait for that